And I have the pleasure to invite you, Maj. Maj Morgenstjerne ist im Department of Health and Care von Hosea die Direktorin für strategische Entwicklung und sie wird uns jetzt sozusagen vom großen Entwurf, wie ist das Department überhaupt aufgestellt, welche Strategie hat man sich ausgedacht, wird sie uns nochmal spezifischer mitnehmen in die Behandlung des Themas Einsamkeit. Und auch da geht es natürlich um eine Strategie auf politischer, auf Verwaltungsebene. Wir erfahren Facts über Einsamkeit in Aarhus und die Strategien für verschiedene Zielgruppen, Menschen, die wirklich schon sehr stark vereinsamt sind oder andere, wo Prävention noch hilft. Und Maj, it's a pleasure to ask you on the stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking us to come here, and thank you for visiting Aarhus. It's always a pleasure to think about your strategy and actually talk about it, because then you have to fine-tune some of the things. Before I start, there's actually 4 things that I think are very important and the background for our strategies towards loneliness. It's kind of 4 premises, or it's actually more like inspirational tips for you as well. The first thing, and I think you're not in doubt when I say we have a strong leadership that really wants this strategy. So nobody doubts that relations are important in Aarhus, and nobody doubts that we want to be the loving municipality. And that's really important because we have the full support from our leaders to do this. The second thing is we cannot do this alone. I think that co-creation with the civil society, with the NGOs, with the organizations, and also with the local association is very, very important. We don't do this by ourselves. We don't know best. We ask and we co-create together. And the third thing is that we have this motto in Aarhus, and it goes, more human, less system. And every time we have to take a decision, we think more human, and we ask ourselves, do we do this the system way, or are we actually doing this the human way? And that question is really relevant. You could write it down and ask yourself the next 3 decisions you make. Is this the human way, or is it more system way? And the last thing is how can we find local ways to measure and evaluate the things we do, because we need to be we need to face the progress, and we need to know if the things we do actually have the effect that we think it has. But on the other hand, don't stop the innovation part, and don't stop being creative about trying things off, and then find out how to measure it along the way. So that was the 4 most important things. Another very important thing is that we have both at department level and political level discussed this, and at the department level our aim is that the proportion of home care and nursing home residents who do not feel lonely of course must increase. And the other one is very interesting as well, because that's from the political discussion about our strategy, active citizenship policy. And it goes, there is a need for all citizens of Aarhus to reach out and to invite one another to participate, including those who rarely or never get involved. So we participate with the resources we have. And this is very important to get the political level to discuss and also set up this framework, because this gives us the focus on resources, it gives us the focus on communities. Actually, the Danish word is fællesskab, and it's very hard to translate, but it's communities, it's fellowship, it's relations, it's groups, but fællesskab is a very strong Danish word. So we don't talk the fight against loneliness, we talk about participation, and we talk about belonging and fellowship. And I think that's very important as well. We don't talk doomsday, we talk about the things we want to achieve. Just very shortly, in 2018, Aarhus was the volunteering capital of Europe, and I think that was very important for us as well, because we had a strategy of sharing and opening up communities. So actually, we've been spending a whole year talking about this, not the fight against loneliness, but it's the other side. We talk about, this is share your community. And the whole strategy is how can all the existing groups in the society in Aarhus, the walking groups, the singing together every Thursday group, the volunteers, the dining groups, the sports clubs, everybody, how can they, to a larger degree, actually opening up and reaching out for people who want to participate as well? So engagement, community groups, a network, and volunteering, how can we create a better, solid places for all these communities to actually reaching out to others? One of the ways we did it was actually to focus on recognition and celebration, because when we did that, we were celebrating all the communities, saying thank you, but we also made it very visible what is going on, who is doing this, where can I as a citizen go and be a part of something. So this was very important. We spent the whole year actually celebrating. And the last one is new ways to welfare, because finding ways of doing this is very interesting as well. And to look for new ways to create communities or fight loneliness is very important as well, because they pop up every once in a while, and then you have to grab them and say, okay, how can we actually go with this? Very shortly on the numbers of loneliness, Dr. Lippert was showing us some numbers yesterday as well, but 1 out of 5 in Denmark often, or now and then, feel involuntarily alone. We also know in the region of Aarhus, Aarhus is being a big region in Jutland, that we have an increase in numbers of people feeling strongly lonely, and it raised from 5 to 8% in 2017. That's the latest one. So we have a whole society creating more lonely people, I would say. And in Aarhus also, you talked about it earlier on today, 1 out of 5 residents in elderly homes, but also 1 out of 2 citizens in home care, they answer that they feel now and then or often involuntarily alone, even though they rather want to be with somebody else. So we have a big problem, and I think you made it very clear why this problem is there, but also that we really need to have a strategy to reach out for those people who have these feelings. What do we know? Dr. Lippert talked about this yesterday as well, but we know it in Aarhus as well. New situations in life. It was new for me that marriage could also be a new situation, but and a need for relations and a feeling of not belonging. And for us in Aarhus, we sat down and looked into, so what does this mean? It means that the group of the oldest elderly in Aarhus are those who are most exposed. Also, elders losing their sense of hearing, their sight or other handicaps. Elders leaving the labor market, and elderly men living alone, and you showed that as well. But it's very important to write it down in our strategy, and it's very important so we know what are we actually focusing on. Another thing, I can't remember, one of you said, you also have to ask these people what is important for them. And actually we did, and they all answer this. Relation is important for me. Keeping up with the existing relations or creating new relations. That's the most important for me. So our strategy, we made this in 3 columns. We have one part of the strategy where we say, all right, how can we actually create a municipality where people can be engaged and reach out to one another in the community? So how can we reach out to somebody who reach out to somebody else? So it's more like a tap on the shoulder, because all of you, me, all of our friends and neighbors are somehow in connection with some people who are in risk or feeling lonely. So you and me are the biggest outreachers to actually do something with this problem. We also, as a municipality, think about how can we connect and bring people together? How can we create meetings? How can we create platforms? You've heard of Genlyd, and you will have the possibility to hear more about it. And how can we do all these possibilities visible? I think that's one of our tasks as well. And the last one is leading more instantly, because our role as a municipality is also to tap in. Somebody asked the question earlier today and say, what about those ones who are really, really hard to reach? How do we do that? And I think we have a big role as a municipality there. I will show you some examples in a minute, but I will also say in our strategy, we always think in each of these boxes, prevention, how can we work with prevention? How can we work with solving? How can we actually lift somebody out of their loneliness problems? And how can we work also with accepting? I don't know, maybe we haven't talked enough about that, because I think accepting is actually a really big thing here. I think when Dr. Lippert talked about driving in the car and you have something lightening up and you are running out of gas, like you are very close to the feeling of loneliness, but you have to accept that this is where I am, so you can actually step out and be more able to do something yourself, or be more able to grab the help that somebody is reaching out to you. So I think this accepting thing is very important as well. Just some examples. The tap on the shoulder strategy. How can we help existing communions and groups to opening up and inviting others inside? Today I've been thinking about the age-friendly city line. We don't use it very much in Aarhus, and I think you talked about social diversity as well, so we have to be very careful. It's not just an age problem, because when we talk and when we ask the people in risk of feeling lonely, they say, I want relations, but not just relations with somebody looking like me. I want social diversity in my relations. I want to look out with kids. I want to have contact with kids. We saw the little film from England, and it's very heart-beating, because you can actually see that relations is so much more than just being in a relationship with somebody who looks like you, or if you're living in a nursing home, maybe it's not just those ones who live next door to you, but it's the whole local society who can tap into this. So it's about, we have this campaign. We used some of the big events in Aarhus, where this is called, in English, Grab a Talk. And it inspires people to actually reach out and talk to other people. And the aim is that you take this home with you, so you remember it when you pick up your kid in kindergarten. You can see there's somebody else. Maybe I could also reach out to them. It's about inclusiveness, but it's also about, we had a whole plan or a whole program with some of the NGOs about how to receive well. Because when you're opening up and inviting more people in, this is also a conflict, or it's difficult sometimes. You start in the sports club and you come down there and you don't really know how to react. Maybe it's a long time since you've been inviting into a group or communion. So we really have to be really careful about how to say, hello, welcome, we're glad to see you. Somebody in a group of elderly men, I think he was 85 or something, and they have this little group where they walk together every Thursday. And he said to me, that one is very easy. Every time somebody new comes, and we go and take a trip on the walking tour, I say, oh, do you know, next Thursday, the guy who should bring the cake, he cannot come. Could you bring the cake? And I say, well, thank you very much. That was a very easy one. But it's very important that we start talking about this as well. Easy access to resources. We need a place to stay. We need a place where we can have our walking sticks. We need a place where we can drink the coffee afterwards. And we have a big task opening up and say, well, it's okay, you can use our locations. The institutions from the municipalities should be very open. And also the ecosystem thinking. us as a municipality, but also the other NGOs, they tend to think, I should solve everything. It's my volunteers, it's my group, and I have to do everything on my own. But I think we need a dialogue about how to think this in an ecosystem and say, you're very good at this, we're very good at this, how can we do this more together? Connecting and bringing together, it's about the quality of the existing communities, because if you strengthen that, you strengthen their ability to reach out for people, because you need a relatively strong community so they can be more inclusive. The examples are genlyd, you will see that. Also, how can we support associations? Sometimes they have problems, sometimes they need consultants or support or applying for a fund or whatever. And I think it's very important to support them. Also the available premises, and not just thinking that the municipalities' institutions are important here. Also, how can the Boys Scout hut and their bonfire be accessible for somebody else? Maybe the old guys with the walking sticks could like to sit down and use the hut to some of their meetings, and the other way around. So I think be more creative about how to share the premises and the locations and the knowledge in the whole community. Create events. We did a lot of events, especially during the year when we were capital. So we had people meeting up together and talking together, because when they talk together, they're actually very creative and, all right, can we use this? And can you teach us something about dementia? Because I have a problem in my organization. As visiting friends, we want to learn more about this. Oh, well, we can do this. And then, yeah. So shopping and sharing is very important, bridging organizations. Okay, so, and some of the initiatives battling loneliness we have in Aarhus. I just took some of the examples, not all 25 of them. We have the accepting part. We made this center, it's called Life Quality Center. We have psychologists who do talks with the elderly ones, the lonely elderly ones. And maybe you think now it's very difficult for some of them to go to see a psychologist. It is, but we found ways so we can actually have this conversation. We also try to integrate loneliness spotting with the employee skills in health professional assessments. I think that one is very important because we see some of the citizens every day in home care. We just need more skills to spot and find out, all right, what is the problem here? And we also need to support the employees so they know, how can I deal with this? So they are not standing alone with this issue, because then they're maybe not reacting on it. So how can we help them in this? We have this program about assisted guidings for homeless and social vulnerable people, and it's medical students who sign up, and they're helping these people around in the health system, but they're also educating themselves to have this sight for loneliness and how it is to be not very strong resources in our society. We also do vacation for vulnerable people. We actually have these classes or these tours where you can have a week in a summer school, and they go together with the aim for doing communities together. We have a lot of community-based genlyd initiatives. You can hear about that later. And also community groups for men. And also thinking prevention. Some of you mentioned it earlier, but home visiting, priests, everybody else who comes in their homes, how can they spot and how can we make these ecosystems so we connect together? All right. And just very shortly, because one of our strategies is also, you need to invest in this. You need to have some muscles. You cannot do it alone as a municipality, but you need to have some muscles to reach out. And I think you can see here that we really mean it. We have 40 local civic center. The one you saw, Folkestedet, that's the nicest one, and it's really beautiful, and it's in the middle of Aarhus, but actually we have 39 other centers just like that in the local areas. It's open and it's accessible, and there's a lot of groups being there. We have volunteer consultants, prevention consultants, the Quality of Life Center. We have a strategic team, Genlyd, and we also have a loneliness alliance, cooperation agreements with partnerships and organizations, and a lot of cooperation agreement with NGOs about different tasks they are solving for us. All right, so very shortly, if we should start again. We started to ask ourselves, what is the role of the public sector when it comes to loneliness? How far could we go, and how far could we reach out to people? I think it's very, it's like a corner flag. You have to find out, where is my corner flag, so I can actually act into this. This one I try to ask some of our politicians now and again. Can we make communities per default? Like, can you just be a part of community per default, and then you can you can sign out? It's the other way around. And what can we demand from our citizens? For instance, as a knowing neighbor to a lonely person, how much pressure can we put on the individual to actually also take a very big part in this? So that was our strategy, shortly. Yes.
Thank you very much also. Would the two of you just join me here? I try to fill in some water for us. I like the idea of a Danish input being finished with questions that the public could ask. We could do it that way, but also it's also your chance now, of course, to answer to ask your questions that you have still with Hosea or Maj. Sie können auch sehr gerne auf Deutsch fragen. Es wird übersetzt. Wir oben führen jetzt das Gespräch auf Englisch, denn sonst wären wir alle etwas sprachverwirrt und müssen hier übersetzen. Und nicht nur Hosea, auch ich. Wer hat eine Frage nach so viel Strategie? Die zweite Reihe, die Kollegin kommt.
I say it in German. Okay. Ja, was mich überrascht hat, Sie haben ganz am Anfang gesagt, die ganze Verwaltung haben Sie mit ins Boot genommen, alle waren irgendwie überzeugt davon. Wie haben Sie das geschafft? Das waren ja wahrscheinlich erstmal, also das ist so, was mich wirklich überrascht hat und was ich auch faszinierend fand, dass Sie das geschafft haben, eben die Verwaltung mit ins Boot zu holen und da an einem Strang zu ziehen, Ihrer Gesamtstrategie.
Ich glaube, die Frage, Sie haben sie verstanden. How did you manage to get your whole department in this new process and strategy?
Well, it's hard work, and it keeps on year after year. So we've had this strategy for 10 years, but in the beginning, of course, we really did a lot of extra things to get through to all the people. We were together with some other people. We had a big strategy team. We took actually, after that, 10 of our leaders out. Instead of being leaders, we put them out, going with the strategy out to all our different institutions. So we invested a lot of resources, manpower, womanpower, into bringing this strategy out to all our employees. So it's hard work.
How long does it take?
Well, we're still working on it 10 years after. That's why we keep to this strategy. We don't want to get rid of it. It takes too long. I mean, it's like a strategy gets eaten by breakfast. At breakfast, you eat strategy. So.
But the German visitors of Älteren City also found very impressive about Aarhus was not only the number and quality of all your different activities in the department, but also the attitude. Everybody really shared this attitude that we met within your department. What I mean is you obviously trust in your citizens, in co-creation. You trust in leadership. You trust in strategy top-down. Is that just typical Danish, or is it something that we could learn from?
Maybe you can ask. But I just want to give a few words more because what we also did, I mean, we took it when you apply for jobs. We write a strategy into that. You have to answer into a strategy even when you try to get your job. So we've done it in all areas that we could. We put the strategy in. So it's when you go as a normal employee or as a leader or with meeting with people or with the NGOs, and we always have the strategy with us, and we keep on going with the strategy. And when we do new initiatives every year, it's always put into the strategy so they know it's because of the strategy we want to go for this goal. So you have to think it through the whole way and keep on working with it.
And the attitude.
Yeah.
But and one thing, I mean, culture eats the strategy for breakfast, and one of the things we've been very aware of the last couple of years is it's quite easy to measure on the yellow card, like how can we keep the citizens away, or it's easier to measure it. But some of the others are very difficult to measure, but we start doing it now because we need some of the numbers and we need to evaluate the things we do, and we also need to discuss with our leaders, like, how can we transform the way we work with relation? How can we transform the way we work with all the homes we come in? Still have to be homeful, or I don't know the German words, and we need to measure this in somehow. And I think that's a very important task we are looking into now.
And with the attitude, also, when we employ people, I mean, normally it would be we employ you as a nurse or a therapist or a psychologist or a social worker or whatever. Yes, that's correct. But we also employ your heart. We take your attitude. We want that also to be in the center of what we do when we get people to work in a municipality.
And you can guarantee that for 7,000 people?
But we try every day.
Okay. Ja, Herr Kleinemaß. Mikro kommt.
Ja, eine ähnliche Frage, aber aus der Gegenperspektive. Wie haben Sie es nur geschafft, den Bürgerinnen und Bürgern das Bild einer liebenden Verwaltung glaubwürdig zu vermitteln?
Okay, you have your...
I mean, it's sometimes, of course, you have people that say, why did you take some help away from me? Then we, of course, have an issue. But how do we get to the other spot where we start with the motivation? How do we make so good training possibilities, prevention initiatives, so we don't even go there? But sometimes, of course, we have issues where people think they don't get enough help from the municipality, and then we have to work into that. And then we have different strategies for that as well. We call one of them strengthen citizen contact. So we try to, again, educate all our employees in how do they, if people come with angerness or think now this municipality is not loving, how can we make these employees then work into this issue? But of course, I mean, with so many people that we help, things go wrong. I mean, but we always have to look at actually 99% goes well. But somehow, strangely enough, the 1% is always what gets into the media, and everybody thinks that elderly care in Aarhus is when they read the media. But if we ask people, which we do and measure, we ask all the people that are in the nursing homes, we ask even their relatives, we ask also all those that get help from us outside in the municipality. So we ask about, I don't know, 15,000 people. And they, more or less, from 90% at the nursing homes are very satisfied to 75, 80 outside. And of course, relatives, 65 going up to 70 is our plan. Mm-hmm. But when they work and come to the places again, then that percentage also goes up. So don't be afraid of them. Yeah. Ask them.
Knowing that your clients, the people, are satisfied, does that also mean, Maj, that you will succeed or already did in battling loneliness? Do you expect the numbers to go down again by doing so much, putting so much effort on activities and tapping on the shoulders?
But numbers are very difficult, as we saw earlier today and yesterday. There is some numbers increasing in the time to come because we live longer, we have more health issues, it's more complex. So all these things are very difficult to look out for. But I think with our strategy, we're doing some things right, and I think the more we are actually fine-tuning the strategy, the more we are reaching out to the right people and the right areas. Because before, I think we were like running in one direction. We say, all right, we want to do something for the elderly men, and we just did a lot for elderly men, and we forgot some of the other things. And then the prevention part is growing so much bigger in our strategy. For example, we have a whole new project going on about how can we use culture, music, art as connecting people. So you create platforms again where people can connect with each other. We know if you stimulate the senses, you connect better to people. So how can we actually use and co-create with some of the cultural institutions in doing this?
Yeah. We wish you all the luck with your ongoing work. Thank you very much for the moment, only for the moment, Hosea and Maj. Thank you.